Hello all you beautiful people, my name is Zach Dowdy. Today we're talking about how to skate transition basics. Front side slash grinds, front side 5-0s, and rolling in. We're here at Shaka's Park, one of my favorite skate parks in San Diego. Ironically, I learned all these tricks here, so I figured what better place to tell you about my perspective on how to do them. This is a really good skate park to learn transition tricks, and like I say in every video, this is just my opinion, my perspective on how to do tricks. There is no right and wrong way to doing skateboard tricks, but what's good about this park is there's so many different levels of transition. There's really small stuff, there's bigger stuff, there's regular coping, there's noping, there's mellow, there's steep stuff, there's all sorts of different kinds of transition. I'll show you what I mean. And why I say that is because you want to learn these basic tricks on really mellow transition. It's going to be a little bit easier, less scary, less intimidating. All right, I'm going to get warmed up, get some of my basics down. One of the first things I think with rolling in is just learning how to bump off like a little crack or something. Like in the beginning of this skate park, in the front of the skate park, there's this little area where there's a curb and it slowly, gradually goes up. I think it's a good thing to kind of learn how to bonk your back wheels on, because that's how you're going to get over the coping. That's definitely the first, tip and hack for rolling in, getting the confidence to just filling that coping. So I actually learned how to do roll-ins before drop-ins, and for me it was a little bit easier to commit to a roll-in versus drop-in, because when you drop in you have to like put your trucks right on the deck, really look at what you're going into and drop in. It's much more of a commitment, well, not much more of a commitment, but it's more of a fear factor, where rolling in is more of a commitment because you kind of can just, sometimes even if you have the skills to pop up onto the deck and roll on top of the transition, you can roll up on top and roll in right after. In a lot of ways that kind of like gets you in the right mindset, it gives you the confidence and sort of like psychs you out to just go for it in a way. So the first steps for rolling in are to figure out how to get that bonking motion. You want to be able to get over the coping, or if you have a skate park like this one here at Shaka's Park, there's a lot of noping, which means there's no coping, it's just concrete, round edge. That's what I learned how to roll in on, because you don't have to worry so much about bonking it. But a lot of skate parks don't really have that. So first thing, just learn how to bonk over the coping. There is a lot of different ways to roll in. There's backside, front side, there's the acid drop, which is just like straight in, and then just carving in. There's so many different ways, but everything I'm going to talk about is going to be more of like a broad stroke of just rolling in general. I learned backside roll-ins and then I learned front side roll-ins, and the reason I learned backside is because you can see the transition. So like as you're rolling in, you can see more of what you're doing, where front side you sort of have to look over your shoulder and then turn, which is a lot harder. The one thing I will say, when I learned roll-ins in the very beginning, I just rolled straight in, because if you think about it, if you have enough speed, you kind of just launch and land in the transition. Now, I'm not recommending you do that, but I'm just saying from a very unskilled level, very unskilled mindset, like as long as you can kick turn on transition and you know how to pop up onto the deck, as long as you get enough speed and you just lift over the coping, you can most likely make it, as long as you bend your knees and do the same things as dropping in. If you don't know how to drop in, essentially a lot of that is bending your knees and using the transition, leaning with your shoulder into it, kind of crunching down. The more you crunch down, the less likely you're going to zing out and fall back, which is like a pretty common thing that people do, just because they're almost more in a manual position, and that also overlaps into roll-ins. Like when you're rolling in, you don't want to manual down it. You want to get all four wheels down as soon as possible. So when I first learned roll-ins, like I said, I just rolled straight in, and then eventually I learned how to carve in. And what I did is like kind of just did it with my hands really slow, and did it in a motion where you almost lose no contact with your wheels. You're kind of just like monster trucking effect over the coping and then into the transition sideways. Kind of think of it as like almost like a surf move in a way, pretty similar to that. And the other thing I will say with rolling in is having speed, the right amount of speed, is super crucial for like learning the basics of rolling in and getting the confidence. So you don't want to go too fast where you fly to the bottom, but you want to go fast enough where you get over the coping. And one way to test that, or kind of like make sure that, is you ride along the side of the coping And as you feel like you can just lift and turn in, you can do it. And you have a better way to like judge your speed, where like if you're just going straight into it or from far away, it's harder to get a judgment of your speed. So yeah, the right amount of speed for rolling in is crucial. And what I would say at that is you just need enough speed to get over the coping and in. You don't need any more than that. This excessive amount of speed is just going to send you to the flat bottom. What I like to do is get just enough speed that I think I would need to roll in, and then I'll just bell right there. Either keep my board on the deck and just run down the transition, or knee slide if you have knee pads, or kick your board out in front of you. One way or another, you want to make sure you make a plan to get rid of your board so it's not underneath you. Now the next thing I wanted to get into is frontside 5-0 grinds. There's two different ways to do frontside 5-0 grinds on transition. There's the slash grind, where it's like you kind of just do a frontside kick turn and you just lift your front trucks. Using your back truck, you kind of just scrape the coping barely and you go back in. I honestly learned that second. First I learned stand-up grinds, because slash grinds to me were really scary. Like again, you really had to commit to that, and it felt like it was just a lot of force, and maybe I didn't have the weight distribution right. And I'll say that's a big thing with every transition skateboard trick, is a lot about your weight and a lot about your hips and a lot about like where your shoulders are. All of that plays into every trick. So with the stand-up 5-0, I was able to bell it. And for me, being able to bell a trick and be able to like exit the trick at any point is a lot easier, because it's less likely that you're going to slam, reach it, or just build your confidence. In the slash grind, it's a lot harder to bell. It's a lot harder to just jump out of slash grind, where a stand-up grind, you can sort of just kick your feet and push your board forward and bell it that way. And one thing that I will say that was sort of like something that really helped me learn the 5-0 grinds, the stand-up 5-0 grinds first, was dragging my heel. Now this is like not proper etiquette. You shouldn't always do this, but in the beginning, just kind of like widening your board. Basically, you have your heel off the edge of your skateboard and you have more board to kind of drag your 5-0 on. So it's less of a balance on your truck and you're more just sitting on the back with enough speed, and you're going up at enough angle that you kind of just drag it along and fall back in. So we'll go more into like the stand-up 5-0, but I think that is one hack that could definitely help you, is using your heel to sort of balance your 5-0 on. And again, you don't want to do that forever. It's just something to sort of like get you the motion and get you the confidence of doing stand-up 5-0s. Now something that somebody said to me when I was trying to learn how to do stand-up frontside grind is you want to draw out your grind on the transition on the wall. And what I mean by that is like you want to find a nice long wall so you can make a really wide carve, and you sort of want to envision how you would be doing it, so that way you can see like the direction and the radius that it's going to take to get to the lip on the coping and to get off. So you almost want to draw even how long you're going to be grinding, how long you're going to stand up for, because like the more that you can conceptualize tricks like that for any skateboard trick, really, it's going to allow you to better understand and give you the confidence to go for it. The other thing is when you're rolling up for a stand-up 5-0, you want to roll up very at a, almost like not 90 degrees, because you would never make it up, but a very gradual angle up to the top of the transition. And one way to test this is just doing kick turns and getting close enough to where you can bell it. You could even just like do a kick turn and zing your board out and flail it out, and that'll get you used to the motion of just turning and kind of getting up to the top of the coping. And I could go more in depth on like a tutorial on how to just get to the top of the coping, but this one kind of just want to breeze over these couple of fundamentals of transition skateboarding. But essentially, as you go up it at a harsh angle, you really want to lean back, similar as like when you're rolling in, just getting over that coping and then sitting on that back truck. And the one thing I'll say at that is you can kind of loosen up your front knee, make it loose so that you can put all your pressure on your back foot. So essentially you want to put all your pressure on your back foot and weight on your back foot. And again, it's about being very centered over your board with a 5-0. Like you don't want to be too far back, because you're just going to zing out and fall off it. You want to be very center weighted over it and sort of just using your back leg to push the 5-0. Again, you are sitting a little far back, but the point being is that you're using your legs to push it and kind of pinch it into the spot, and your momentum and your speed is going to allow you to grind. And then as you're grinding, you're going to slowly just turn your shoulders. And as soon as you start turning your shoulders back into the transition, you'll start to fall back in. And a good way to basically kind of not hang up, what I say with this in grinds on transition, is you sort of push your board off the coping. So instead of just trying to like fall right in by turning your shoulder, the one way you can think about this is like you want to push off it, similar to how you push up or bonk up a curb, like we were saying earlier for rolling. You sort of like want to push off the coping and then get up and above it. So at that moment, you are kind of in the back seat just to push it off, but then you're getting right above it and trying to keep your knees bent the whole time, pretty much throughout this trick. Like the only point where you're gonna extend your knees on a 5-0 is if you're grinding really, really far and you have like sort of the momentum of a 5-0 down, and then you can sort of stretch it out per se and then bring it back. But it is a lot like a frontside kick turn, you know, frontside stand-up 5-0s, and they're really easy to belt. When it comes to the frontside slash grinds, for me, that was a lot harder to figure out because it is more of a commitment. But I will say, just getting and going up to the transition frontside, just getting frontside kick turns down over and over, repetition, like just building your confidence up, like getting really close to that lip. And then eventually your wheels will hit it or something will happen and it'll spook you, you'll probably zing out, and just figuring out how to bail. That is crucial. Like I said, it's really hard to bail slash grinds, but the one thing I'll say is getting up on top, and a lot of times what people will do is run forward. So their board will go underneath them, fall under the transition, and they'll run forward. I think it's important to think about things like that because you don't want to land back on your board. That is like the ultimate bummer when you're like trying skate tricks, is like landing back on your board when you're belling it. So like figuring out how to bell is definitely crucial for learning frontside slash grinds and frontside stand-up 5-0s. If you could smash that like button, I appreciate it. Help me support the channel. Subscribe if you're not already. And as always, we'll see you in the next one. Mash.